Well, thanks for joining today. I'm Scott Cuthbert, co-founder of Safepedia, and I'm super excited to introduce our two guests today. Malcolm Staves, who's the Global VP of Health and Safety for Loreal, and Corrie Pitzer, who's CEO of Safemap International. And we've got a really special topic today that we're going to talk about, a safety conference. And so without further ado, let's just jump in and get into the conversation today. So where did this idea of a safety conference come from?
Corey, I'll start off there if you don't mind. Well, I've been going to conferences for quite a number of years now, and I was starting to get a little bit frustrated about sometimes the quality of the presentations that really weren't up there, like at the cutting edge and where we were in health and safety. And the other thing that got me a little bit as well was sponsors, because they've paid to sponsor, they got airtime, they got on stage, but some of them really tried to sell their products. And I sort of felt as if I was going to conferences just to be sold things. And it started to grate me a little bit as well. So I thought, well, why not change the business model, right? Why not look at this a little bit differently and have a celebration about what we're doing in health and safety, where we are and where we're going. But at the same time, why not also do it as not-for-profit, right? To try and keep this as a minimum cost for health and safety professionals and other people that wanted to be involved. So I contacted Corey. I've known Corey for quite a while. I admire the work that he does. And I thought, well, why not? So I reached out to Corey, and Corey said, wow, I've been thinking about doing the same thing. And that's really how it sort of started. And I think you could say the rest is history. I don't know, Corey.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Yeah, it was like a meeting of like minds just immediately when, it was like, wow, this is something that we could do together. And one of the things that I think that Malcolm mentioned at the time that really attracted my interest was to be also disruptive. Not to just go with the flow of things. Let's see how can we inject different things into the safety debate and the safety, because Malcolm's right. When you go to a conference, it's basically consultants selling their services. That's basically what you get. And it's not a conceptual, let's challenge the thinking, let's be broader, outside the box. That's really what attracted me. And that's also the theme of safety on the edge. That has a little bit of a history too, and I was working on this idea for a while. About 2015, 2014, I did a conference in Australia, and it was with this focus. And I managed the conference with me and Professor John Adams, Todd Conklin, Dr. Rob Robson, and Sydney Decker, and we went through 3 cities in Australia. And that was called Safety on the Edge. And but we hardly could get 30 people at a meeting at the time, because the whole idea of safety new and all that kind of stuff was not very known. So that's okay. Let's jump into safety on the edge in a real big way. And Malcolm is a big thinker, and that's what I like about him. I like to think big too, and not just go with the flow.
Yeah, I was just going to say on
point. Sorry, Scott, go on.
Oh no, I was just going to say on that subject, I remember when Corey shared this idea with us, and I said, well, if you're going to start doing a physical conference, you should start small and have sort of an intimate setting and grow from there. And then I think Corey came back and said, okay, we need an auditorium that can fit 600 to 800 people. So there's no going small with when Corey and Malcolm were involved.
Oh no! I mean, I think I suggested first off about 200 people or something like that, and we sort of grown. But what I like about it as well is, with the term the name safety on the edge, because even within industry today where I work, we're at the cutting edge of everything. We are when it comes to leadership. Where we have to deal with people at all different levels of the organization, external people. So from a leadership point of view, there aren't no better leaders in any organization than the health and safety professionals. And we're at the edge of everything. We connect with every single other department because it's all about people and putting people at the center. So when Corey came up with this idea of safety on the edge, I thought, yes, that speaks. I loved it. And it was born like that. It was incredible. You could almost imagine if it would have been in Paris, like two people sat having a coffee in a little cafe, at the next to the Seine, just writing on a piece of napkin, a piece of paper, about doodling on their ideas. And but in a virtual way, that's exactly how Safety on the Edge was born.
By an Englishman living in Paris and a South African living in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that was really, really good.
So you've outlined 5 sub-themes around safety on the edge. The first one being safety is the front edge, best-in-class practices. Malcolm, can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, building on a little bit of what I've already said, I mean, many organizations have either multinational, national SMEs. They've built themselves over the years very successful and impactful safety management systems and programs and methods and tools that are delivering a good level of performance, right? But very often we keep that to ourselves from the networking point of view. There's a lot of jewels out there, a lot of great ideas, maybe around a theme like visible leadership, employee engagement, risk management, etc. And what I like about the idea of SOTI on this first theme is actually we're going to bring that into one place. We're going to have those safety thought leaders being capable of sharing with other people what great work they've been doing for many years that has delivered time and time again. I just think it's amazing. And the forum will give that opportunity, and it'll also give an opportunity for benchmarking as well, which I think is also important. But this bringing these groups together, these, I'm going to say, health and safety senior thought leaders to discuss, to share, to exchange, is just for me a dream come true. And I think it can only improve health and safety across all our organizations if we do this right.
Yeah, that's exciting. And so you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but the second theme is bringing together that cutting edge thinking in safety. So maybe we can.
Yeah, that's a little bit for me. It's a larger dimension, if I can. I mean, we've got all this good stuff that's being done in industry, and sharing that, because I'm sure I've got things in L'Oreal that I could share with somebody else, and somebody else will say, oh, I could apply that, right? I can apply that. Maybe I change it a bit to my situation, but that is something for me. And that's good. But also, what this is also doing, what we want to do with Safety on the Edge, is bring together academia, bring in here the researchers where they're working at the moment. And I think by bringing industry, academia, research all together, trying to collaborate with the objective of improving health and safety within organizations, saving lives, is so fundamental. And yet, it's never, to my knowledge, been done before at such a scale as what we're trying to do with Safety on the Edge. I mean, this is pioneering. And for me, bringing them together is game changing. This could change everything when it comes to health and safety.
And that for me is that second half of the equation. So safety on the edge. Safety is in a solid foundation. We are doing extremely well, I think, in the way that we've grown as a profession. But I like this idea of pioneering. And that's where safety has not yet been. We've always, if you think about how do we the kind of focus areas in safety, behavioral safety, for instance, that was the previous era. That was based on a science that was pre-existing. So safety followed. The new view of safety, the principles of Deming has been in existence since the 90s, and I started working with that. That was pioneering, but safety followed that only, 20 years later, 30 years later. So I'm thinking, what is it that in safety thinking, that we can cut through to the edge, that we can become pioneers in ourselves, and then us leading the other professions into it, and not us always leading and following on. That to me is a real opportunity for us.
And that's really the third theme of safety itself, is also the edge, right? Or the cusp of transformation with Industry 4.0 and 5.0 coming.
Yeah, that's certainly, when you look at the what is happening in the future, and we all seen all these projections and thinking, the advent of AI and of Industry 4.1 and 4.0 and 5.0 and 6 and whatever is coming after that. There's a whole new world out there, and we are at the cusp of that. We are not probably going to see a lot of that in our lifetimes, but how it plays out in future. But if you think about the incredible technology that is now being generated, safety is going to change the game, or its game, dramatically. And we have to be thinking about that. We have to be at the front end of that. And what do we become 20 years from now? That's even further into this idea of the front edge of safety. And how do we cope with that? How do we optimize that and make sure that we are still pioneers in safety when all these changes are happening?
Right. And I think to build on that, Corey, it's also important. That's where we bring in industry and research together, is because looking at it from an industrial point of view, some of these new technologies that are coming through, AI, digitalization, automation, exoskeletons, for example, come with their own challenges, as you said. And it's not necessarily an easy sell. But I think with the research, we can start to have almost like science-based sort of information that will allow us to be more informed and saying, well, this is where AI is going to add the most value in health and safety, not just by something off the shelf, but how it can add value. Digitalization, we have to remember as well that we don't want safety is boots on the ground, right? It's not in the office. It's not filling in checklists. It's not always in digitalization. But where digitalization can give people time back, then there is value, right? More time on the shop floor because it makes sense. So all these things, I think, need to be discussed at a forum like Safety on the Edge. And the link with academia is that we could maybe, if we work better together, this is my dream. If we can work better together, we can focus research into those areas that will add value, that are important to industry. But also, industry could provide a ground for proof of concept for these new ideas. Because I personally, at my level, looking at all the research that's coming out at the moment and over the last years, I don't know where to look anymore. There's so much coming out. You can't see the woods for the trees. And I think if we can work together, we can help focus that. So I think at the end of the day, the future, to be future fit, it needs collaboration between academia and industry around the topics that Corey's actually mentioned.
Maybe something to add on to that, that the whole idea of technology and advancement and AI and all these things that are evolving, for me, a further question we want to ask in this forum and address is, how does that impact on the safety culture in the organization? How does that impact on leadership? What kind of leader are we going to have in the future? Do we need leaders in the future that's got people skills? Or do we need leaders in the future that are technocrats? Those are strategic questions in the science of management, the broader subject of management, of which safety is a subset. We need to be focusing on those things too. What kind of organization and world will we live in as a result of the technology?
Totally. How are we going to make how are we going to be ready for the future? How are we going to make ourselves future fit? And it's a big challenge because on the other hand, none of us have a crystal ball. Huh? But I think by bringing the thought leaders together into one place will allow us to make better informed decisions of where maybe the future is going and maybe influence that in some way.
Well, and Malcolm, you kind of touched on this at the beginning, but theme 4 is safety is also balancing on the edge between several functional areas within an organization.
Yep. I mean, just from my pure perspective at the moment, from where I work in L'Oreal, I mean, we engage with all the departments, right? Whether it's sales, marketing, so we're connected to wherever there are people, and I think it's more and more important that we are ready to accompany the business in its evolution. Is that through automation, Industry 4.0? And we have to realize that it's not, oh, you have to do this anymore because we are the safety professional and we're very rigid. We have to adapt to the needs of the business and make sure that by adapting, we keep our people safe and healthy, and why not make a positive impact? So I think it's important that we're seen not as health and safety leaders, but as business leaders that are partnering with the business in order for companies to be profitable, but by keeping people safe.
I think to add on to that, I know Malcolm is big into this too, and it's also the impact of safety on the broader community in which the companies are operating. L'Oreal is making huge strides in this field around the world, impacting on communities, impacting on the whole industry, and that is brought together by the impact of safety, and the role. And I know I've watched a lot of the things that L'Oreal is doing is really very, very positive and constructive outside the shop floor where people work.
Yeah, there's an approach which is you really have to look at people in their totality, right? And you get to the stage where people are just following the rules or not following the rules because the company wants to. And how do you make it personal? And that program, and I'm not going to go into any more detail, but that kind of program of taking safety home, going out to other companies looking for best practices, etc., has helped us be where we are in our safety culture, our safety performance. And, with Corrie, I feel that should be shared with everybody, not just what we're doing, but other companies should be sharing. Other companies should be trying to make a difference outside of their boundaries as well. So I think it's a way of life. But yeah, and bringing that kind of stuff here and to safety on the edge, it's exactly that. It's where safety is on the edge of where are we going next. But that includes how do we get into the minds of people? How do we make safety personal for every single employee that works for us? And that's not easy. Anyhow, I'm not going to say more about that. I want to hold that for if I get the privilege to actually do a presentation during safety on the edge, then I'm going to let that go then.
Get into those details. Well, the final theme is safety is on the sharp edge of business. So, Corrie, can you expand on that for us?
To me, this is where the rubber hits the road. In the end, that is our first and final obligation as a profession, is the protection of life of our employees. That's it. It is no more fancier than that. And sometimes we might be losing a focus on all the stuff that we're doing in safety. If you think about, for me, the whole era of complexity, there's a lot of talk about complexity, and we talked about AI and all this technology coming in. Organizations are becoming physically, interactively more complex. We are in a higher level of competition. We have to work faster. We have to produce at an incredible rate products. We are delivering much more dangerous products. We are really at the edge of threat in the organization. If we lose control in our business, things can be catastrophically going wrong. And we've seen many examples. And my fear, if you look at fatality rates around the world, globally, is on the increase. And yet we are in the most advanced stage of our societies in history, and we are killing more people in the workplace per 1,000 employees than before. Catastrophic events, That's our final obligation. And we need to have a very sharp focus on that. And that's, how do we do that differently? How do we do that traditionally? And how do we do that effectively so that we can actually protect the life of people? Elimination of fatalities, for me, remains the ultimate goal, the ultimate dream of what we are in safety for. And that's the theme for us, a strong theme for us.
Yeah, totally agree. And just to bring in some figures, if I can, I mean, it's just on the ILO. I've just issued some reports saying that there's just under 3 million people die or are killed per year because they went to work, either physical or due to health, right? But what's quite remarkable is the studies that we've done with some organizations indicates that the number of unnecessary deaths outside of work is 40 times that. 120 million people die every year, and it's probably a minimum figure, unnecessarily because of accidents or ill health or things like that, but unnecessarily. And I think bringing all these minds together with this idea of, from a safety perspective of trying just to save one life, because through sharing, through learning, through networking, is just a tremendous way to do it. And I think we will make a difference with the safety on the edge, right? I think we will. But it's important to know that, our people as well, the EH&S professionals, they're saturated at this moment in time, right? They've got so many programs to choose from, whether from consultants or from reading books and so on and so forth, that they really sometimes don't know what to do. So I think what we're going to end up doing here on the sharp edge of business is actually say, these are the kind of things that can work. These are the kind of things that will work because we've got the experience. Or these are the things that have come through academia that say they will work as well. And I think that will allow us to prioritize, because nobody works 9 to 5 anymore, especially the EH&S professionals, right? And everybody's veering for a time. So if we're going to be on the sharp edge of business, we also need to prioritize. And I think that's going to be something we're going to help with. So I think it's pretty good what we're going to do.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So what does the future hold for safety on the edge?
That's a good question. We sit and dream sometimes and wonder. This is the effort for 26, 27 March 2025, Berkeley, California. What next? What next? Now, a very important thing for us is we didn't call this a conference. We call this a global forum. It will start off with at a conference, and we see that continue. But we want to be bigger than a forum. We want to be a continuous forum. And we're going to create the capability around this conference to continue as that forum into the future. So we don't want to compete with the other associations that conduct, manage conferences, the NSC, the whatever conference, HSPC, or the ASSP. We like to work with them and embrace them and ask them to embrace us. And we are going to position ourselves where we're going to be a forum for best practice and pioneering. I think those are the two balancing acts for us into the future beyond March next year. That's, to me, is the dream.
If I can add to sort of my perspective, I mean, this is game-changing potentially. It's potentially pioneering, but it's also a risk, right? We don't know how successful it's going to be. There's nothing like it. But I believe, like you, Corrie, like you've just been saying, bringing people together and allowing the continuation of the networking, the sharing, will only add value to the whole industry. And where is it going next? I don't really know. I see. I love to visualize things, right? And I sort of see safety on the edge like as a bonsai on the edge of a cliff, right? At the moment, we're starting to sink our roots into the edge of the cliff to make sure that safety on the edge is going to be secure, to be safe, right? And I think that personally, the bonsai will blossom and it's going to be a beautiful bonsai tree with solid roots at the edge of the cliff. I've got no doubt that this will be successful, and I don't think it'll fail due to your enthusiasm, Scott's enthusiasm, or my enthusiasm or passion for this kind of subject. So I honestly don't know what the future is, but I'd like to think the future was bright.
Yeah, I concur. I'm super excited to be part of this and help promote it and see where it goes. And Corrie touched on it, so we will put a link in the description so you can click and register. But it's March 26th and 27th in Berkeley, California, next March, right? And then we're going to have a virtual follow-up event on April 1st for anyone who wasn't able to attend in person, correct?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Would like to see everybody there.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I would suggest signing up sooner than later. I know the event is just starting, we're just starting to book attendees, but I know the hotel has got limited space as well. So if you want to be staying on premise, you better sign up and book the conference and accommodations.
I've already booked my hotel, by the way, just to let you know.
Yeah.
But if I can add at the end, and I know, Corrie, I'm going to be talking for you as well, and also Scott. So if there's anybody listening in and they want more information, they're curious about it or whatever, just connect with us on LinkedIn and just chat to us. There's absolutely no problem for me.
Yeah. And we'll have safetyontheedge.com, the website, and again, we'll have the registration link in the description below.
Isn't
and
this where I'm supposed to
see you in San Francisco, near the Golden Bridge, Berkeley.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the photo. But isn't this where I'm supposed to say something like, see you on www.safetyontheedge.com?
Yeah.
That's
Are you supposed to say something like that at the
end? There we are.
Fantastic.
Thanks.